Hello and welcome to K News. This is Hardik Trivedi. Let's have a look on what is happening in India and in the world. The US remained a tinderbox of anger and emotion as violent protests erupted for 6 days across the country over the custodial killing of African American George Floyd, resulting in the death of at least 5 people, the arrest of thousands and placing of curfew in nearly 40 cities, while forcing President Donald Trump to make shelter in a White House bunker, considered to be the worst ever civil unrest in the US in decades. The violent protests have engulfed at least 140 cities across America in the days following the death of Floyd, a 46-year-old man who was pinned to the ground in Minneapolis on Monday by a white police officer who kneeled on his neck as he gasped for breath. Some of the protests have turned violent, prompting the activation of the National Guard in at least 20 states. At least 5 people were killed in violence that flared as demonstration in parts of the country developed into mayhem, the Washington Post reported. Police have arrested at least 2,500 people in 24 US cities over the weekend. Nearly a fifth of those arrests were in Los Angeles. The unrest initially began in Minneapolis in Minnesota but has now spread across the country, with reports of violence coming in from across major cities, including Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Houston, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. In Boston, a police SUV was set ablaze near the State House, sending up a column of black smoke after a large group of protesters had mostly disappeared. The police fired tear gas near the White House on Sunday night to dissuade protesters who had smashed the windows of prominent buildings, overturned cars, and set fires, with smoke seen rising from near the Washington Monument. For the past few days, thousands of protesters have gathered outside the White House raising slogans against President Trump. According to CNN, President Trump was briefly taken to the underground bunker for some time during the protest outside the White House, while First Lady Melania Trump and their son Barron were also taken to the bunker. President Trump made no public appearance on Sunday, but in a series of tweets he blamed the media for fomenting hatred and anarchy in the country. Pakistan on Monday summoned a senior Indian diplomat to register a strong protest over India's decision to expel 2 officials of its High Commission in New Delhi on charges of espionage. India on Sunday declared 2 officials of the Pakistan High Commission as persona non grata on charges of espionage and ordered them to leave the country within 24 hours. The Ministry of External Affairs said the 2 officials, Abid Hussain and Muhammad Tahir, were caught by Delhi police while they were obtaining sensitive documents relating to India's security installations from an Indian national in exchange for money, official sources said in New Delhi. Earlier, Pakistan Foreign Office said that the 2 staff members of the Pakistan High Commission in New Delhi were lifted by the Indian authorities on May 31 on false charges. Pakistan strongly rejects the baseless Indian allegations and deplores the Indian action, which is in clear violation of the Vienna Convention. The 2 officials were, however, released on the High Commission's intervention. The officials working at the visa section of the Pakistan High Commission confessed during the interrogation that they worked for Pakistani spy agency ISI. Official sources in New Delhi said Pakistan has downgraded diplomatic ties by expelling the Indian High Commissioner in Islamabad following India's decision to withdraw the special status of Jammu and Kashmir and bifurcate the state into 2 union territories in August last year. The Ministry of External Affairs said a strong protest was lodged with the charge the affairs of the Pakistan High Commission over the activities into official against India's national security. They initially claimed that they were Indian nationals and even produced fake Aadhaar cards, the sources said. The depression in the Arabian Sea is likely to intensify into a severe cyclone and cross the North Maharashtra and South Gujarat coast on June 3 and will have an impact on Mumbai, the India Meteorological Department said on Monday. The depression will intensify into the third and fourth stage of any cyclone formation by this evening. It will intensify into a cyclonic storm by June 2. The Cyclone Warning Division of the IMD said. The storm is very likely to move nearly northwards initially till June 2 morning and then recurve northeastwards and cross North Maharashtra and South Gujarat coast between Harihareshwar in Maharashtra and Daman during evening of June 3, the Cyclone Warning Division said. The nearly 260-kilometer patch between Raigad and Daman has one of the highest population densities in the country. Apart from Mumbai, it also has satellite cities like Thane, Navi Mumbai, Panvel, Kalyan, Dombivli, Mira Bhayandar, Vasai Vihar, etc. It will have an impact on Mumbai, IMD Director General Mrityunjay Mohapatra said. When it crosses the coast on the evening of June 3, it will have a speed of 105 to 110 kilometers per hour, the IMD said. Heavy rains are also expected in South Gujarat and coastal Maharashtra. COVID-19 is a humanitarian crisis and not a political one, and merely criticizing the government is not going to magically cure people or make the dead come back to life, the Gujarat High Court said in its latest order on a suo motu PIL registered of the outbreak. It also called for a cooperation, understanding and constructive criticism to help the state government fight the pandemic. The division bench of Chief Justice Vikram Nath and Justice J.B. Pardiwala expressed anguish that its recent observation on the government's dealing of the pandemic sparked unnecessary debates and comments on social media and other platforms and was misused of some oblique motive. In times of crisis, we need to bind, not biker. The COVID-19 crisis is a humanitarian crisis, not a political crisis. Hence, it is imperative that no one politicize the issue, the court said. The High Court asked the opposition to offer a helping hand rather than critical tongue in times like this, adding that simply highlighting flaws and gaps in the state's handling of the situation only creates fear in the minds of people. The court's observation come a few days after an earlier bench of Justice J.B. Pardiwala and I.J. Vora, hearing the same PIL, had said in its May 22 order that the condition at the government-run Ahmedabad Civil Hospital, where over 415 COVID-19 patients have died, so far as pathetic and as good as Dungeon. This prompted the government to make urgent submission before the court, saying that its observation, apart from seriously demoralizing the COVID-19 task force, has given rise to a lot of fear and anxiety in the patients who are declining to get admitted in the civil hospital. Merely criticizing the government in power is not going to magically cure people of COVID-19, nor it is going to make the dead come back to life. The High Court said people want to collaboration among leaders to fight the common unknown enemy more than rivalries of political ideologies when their lives are at stake, and that the constructive criticism can help rather than adversarial criticism. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath Sunday said the state government does not intend to impose any new tax to deal with the economic impact of the coronavirus crisis. Replying to a specific question during a virtual press conference, Adityanath said, "We have started our economic activities and it is moving on rapidly. As compared to the previous month, this month's revenue collection seems good. There is no thought of imposing any separate tax, and our focus is to give more relaxation to the public. How to boost industrial activities while following social distancing norm is our focus." He also said when migrant laborers started returning to Uttar Pradesh, people thought it would trigger a chaos in the state, but we considered them as our strength. The Uttar Pradesh government had recently decided to set up a migration commission for exploring opportunities within the state for migrant workers. The Chief Minister had recently said returning migrants are our people, and if some states want them back, they have to seek permission from the state government. There is a need to ensure their socio-legal monetary rights. The Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Indian Industry Association accounted for 3 lakh jobs each, while Nardeco and Laghu Udyog Bharti accounted for 2.5 lakh jobs each, UP MSME Minister Siddharth Nath Singh had told. He had also said his department has set up a control room for migrant laborers and has so far ensured payment of rupees 1,700 crores due to the workers in 75,000 units. It's time for a short break. We'll join you in a short while.
వేసవి అవుతుంది ఫన్ విత్ కూలర్ నంబర్ 1. ఇక చేసుకో మోర్ ఫన్ ఉంటే కూలర్ నంబర్ 1. ఇక డోంట్ రన్ ఫ్రమ్ ద సన్ ఉంటే కెల్స్టా నంబర్ 1.
पहली नजर हो गया मैं दीवाना 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 इतना सुंदर जैसे कोई सपना सुहाना मैं दीवाना दीवाना
कचारिया टाइम्स, जो देखे वो दीवाना।
Welcome back to K News and thank you for watching. Let's continue the streak of news. The country's manufacturing sector activity recorded another sharp deterioration in business conditions during May as new orders placed with procedures continued to fall after April's record contraction, leading firms to cut jobs at the quickest pace on record, a monthly survey said on Monday. The headline seasonally adjusted IHS market India manufacturing purchasing managers index stood at 13.8 in May, up from 27.4 in April, pointing to another substantial decline in the health of the country's manufacturing sector, albeit one of that was slightly softer than recorded in April. In April, the index has slipped into contraction mode after remaining in the growth territory of 32 consecutive months. In PMI parlance, a print above 50 means expansion, while a score below that denotes contraction. The latest PMI data suggested that Indian manufacturing output fell further in May. This result is particularly poignant given the record contraction in April, which was driven by widespread business closures, said Elliott Care economist at IHS Market. As per the survey, weaker demand drove output lower following April's record deadline. Consequently, firms cut staff numbers at the quickest pace since data collection began over 15 years ago. The further reduction in May highlights the challenges that businesses might face in the recovery from this crisis, with demand remaining subdued and while the longevity of pandemic remains uncertain. The death toll due to the COVID-19 rose to 5,394, and the number of cases climbed to over 1.90 lakh, according to the Health Ministry. Weak demand from international markets added to the deteriorating sales trend, with new business from abroad declining further in May. Anecdotal evidence suggests that global measures to stem the spread of COVID-19 continue to stifle exports. Going ahead, Indian manufacturers remained optimistic towards the one-year business outlook in May. Confidence was supported by expectations for a return to growth once all coronavirus-related restrictions are lifted. The survey said, adding that the degree of positivity eased slightly from April and remained historically subdued. Meanwhile, India's GDP growth tumbled to 3.1% in the March quarter, the slowest pace since the global financial crisis more than a decade back. In 2019-20, the Indian economy grew by 4.2%, the slowest in 11 years. A historic decision is likely to be announced shortly after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's cabinet met this afternoon for the first time after the government began the second year of its second term. The Cabinet Committee on Security and Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs met before the Cabinet. Historic decisions having a transformative impact are expected to be announced, government sources said. An ordinance or executive order to enforce the one nation, one market policy to enable farmers to sell their produce to anyone, anywhere for better price is likely to be announced. Also on the agenda on the meetings were the standoff with China in Ladakh and an economic revival plan after Unlock 1 came into force today in a significant easing of the nationwide lockdown, with the reopening of malls, restaurants, hotels and places of worship. GDP data last week showed the slowest pace of growth in 11 years and big impact of the lockdown on the latest quarter. Some 12 crore people lost jobs in April, according to estimates by the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. Attempting to revive economic activity, the government has been easing out of lockdown curbs since April 20. Domestic flights and train services restarted last month. Analysts predict a full first-year contraction of the economy in more than 4 decades, even as the country battles a spurt in coronavirus cases. India galloped the number 8 spot in top 10 worst virus-hit countries in the world on the weekend. In a letter to the nation to mark a year after his re-election, PM Modi said the nation took historic decisions and progressed rapidly in the last year. He also predicted that India would be set an example in economic revival and surprise the world like it did in its fight against the pandemic. Over 1,000 imported products will not be available at paramilitary canteens across the country from today, as only made in India products will be sold in these canteens. The delisting of the imported products comes after the government last month announced that paramilitary canteens will only sell indigenous or Indian products from June 1 in a bid to give a flip to domestic industries. The Kendriya Police Kalyan Bhandars, the parent body that runs these canteens, has divided all products into 3 categories. Category 1 comprises the products purely made in India. Category 2 includes products with imported raw materials but are manufactured and assembled in India. The third category consists of purely imported products. The parent body has also stopped several products from companies which have not provided the information sought by them. The move to sell only made in India products will be sold in paramilitary canteens comes after Prime Minister last month stressed the mantras of Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliance and vocal for local, while announcing a mega economic package to tackle the economic impact of the coronavirus. 60 to 70% of people who shopped at paramilitary canteens mostly bought only essential and basic items. The canteens were mostly catering to lower and upper level of the constituency, but the decision would have an impact on the rest 30 to 40%, a senior officer said. The officer said that most of the times the high-end brands were placed on order on a demand basis, but now these brands are no more available. We have to wait and see which other brands the government push through, he added. Paramilitary canteens record around rupees 2,800 crores in sales annually. The CAPF includes the Central Reserve Police Force, Border Security Force, Central Industrial Security Force, Indo-Tibetan Border Police, Sashastra Seema Bal, National Security Guard and Assam Rifles. Delhi has sealed its border from a week amid a worrying surge in COVID-19 cases, Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said Monday afternoon, adding that only those people providing essential services and holding government-approved e-passes will be allowed to cross. Government employees holding valid ID cards will also be allowed to cross. Mr. Kejriwal explained that the borders were being shut temporarily to allow hospitals and medical institutions in the city time to get a handle on the increase in coronavirus cases. He also stressed the while and spike in numbers was disturbing, it should not lead to panic. Delhi borders are to be sealed for next week. Essential services are exempted. We will take a decision again in 1 week to open borders after seeking suggestions from citizens. The moment we open the borders, people from across the country will come to Delhi for treatment. Delhi hospitals should be reserved for the people of Delhi, Mr. Kejriwal added in his brief address to the city. The national capital has nearly 20,000 coronavirus cases so far, with 473 deaths linked to the virus. On Sunday evening, more than 1,000 new infections were detected in the preceding 24 hours. This was the fourth consecutive time that the number of new cases crossed the 1,000 mark in 24 hours. According to the Chief Minister, Delhi has 9,500 beds for COVID-19 patients, up from 4,500 and then 6,600 as the city-state scales up health and hospital infrastructure to contain and quell the virus outbreak. I can guarantee as your Chief Minister, there will be a bed if you or someone in your family is infected, Mr. Kejriwal said. When he said we are making plenty of arrangements that are much more than the requirements. The S&P, BSE, Sensex and NSE Nifty surged on Monday on the back of broad-based buying interest as investor sentiment got a boost after government announced easing the COVID-19 induced lockdown after over 2 months. The benchmarks stacked a gap up opening wherein the Sensex rose as much as 1,200 points and the Nifty 50 index touched an intraday high of 9,931. Reliance Industries, HDFC Bank, SDFC, TCS and Bajaj Finserv were among the top contributors toward the gain in the Sensex. The Sensex ended 879 points or 2.71% higher at 33,303 and the Nifty 50 index surged 246 points or 2.57% to close at 9,826. The government permitted restaurants and malls to reopen from June 8 but extended lockdowns in high-risk zones until the June 30 as a record high number of cases were detected nationwide on Saturday. All the 11 sector gauges complied by the National Stock Exchange ended higher, led by the Nifty PSU Bank indexes 7.6%. Nifty and private bank, metal, auto and realty sector gauges also soared over 3%. Mid and small cap shares also witnessed buying interest as the Nifty Mid Cap 100 and Nifty Small Cap 100 indexes rose over 3% each. That's all for now. Keep watching K News. This is Hardik Trivedi taking your leave. Be alert, be positive, be safe.